Hi guys, it's Ben Heath, and in this video I'm going to answer a very, very important question, and that's, is Facebook advertising getting more expensive? It's something that a lot of Facebook advertisers are worried about, particularly if Facebook is a very important part of your marketing. It's a way that you generate customers, generate clients, and you might be thinking, well, I can afford to profitably generate leads and sales on the platform now, but if it gets more expensive, I'm not going to be able to do that. Where are my future customers going to come from? It's something that I think causes a lot of anxiety in the Facebook advertising community. So something I want to address. As I said, I think it's very important. Before I get into that, just want to quickly ask you to smash that like button on this video, click that thumbs up, that'd be much appreciated and really help me out. And of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new and haven't done so already. I release Facebook advertising content every single week. Okay, is Facebook advertising getting more expensive? I think to answer this question properly, I need to sort of look back at what's happened to Facebook advertising, where it's gone, where it's come from and where it is now, and then look forward, because I think that helps frame things. So if you look back at when Facebook advertising was much newer, much less known about, let's say 8 years ago, something along those lines, Facebook's ad manager was far less sophisticated, had much fewer options. Was Facebook advertising a lot cheaper then? Yes. Yes, it was. Why was it cheaper? Because there was far less demand. As you probably know, it's very basic economics to know that the increase in demand will increase the price of a certain thing. And Facebook advertising as a product is a very fluid thing that people can buy. The demand rises and falls more or less in real time, and increased demand will increase the price, which effectively increases the cost to us advertisers. So what we saw with Facebook advertising is what we've seen with so many digital marketing platforms, and what we'll see with future digital marketing platforms, is that you've got this tech company that has this enormous amount of supply. And if you think of Facebook advertising supply being ad inventory. So before Facebook started running ads, they had just tons and tons and tons of supply, loads of places where ads could be placed. They've got, well, now billions, but I think maybe not at the time, maybe more than a billion, but at the time still hundreds of millions of users when they first started running, allowing people to run ad campaigns. People are on the platform all the time, etc., etc. Okay? So tons of supply. They turn on advertising and a few entrepreneurs try it, not that many. So the demand is so low that they have an incredibly low cost of advertising, and they're able to get phenomenal results. I mean, imagine if right now you were advertising on Facebook and I just cut your costs by 90%. Any campaign, any rubbish product, any poorly constructed ad creative could get fantastic results under those conditions, right? And that's definitely what happened at the beginning of Facebook advertising. But of course, when those entrepreneurs see those fantastic results, they do a couple of things. A, they start spending a lot more, increasing the demand. B, they start telling other people. They start creating videos about them and spreading the word, and more advertisers flock to the platform. I remember hearing an announcement that there are now 3 million Facebook advertisers a number of years ago. Well, I heard one last year, maybe even 2 years ago now, that there are now 7 million advertisers across, that use the Facebook ad platform, obviously Facebook, Instagram, and things like that included. So clearly the demand has increased a huge amount, which has led the price to increase. And by the way, we saw the exact same, as I said, with other digital marketing platforms like Google AdWords. Google AdWords did basically the exact same thing Facebook has done, it just did it 10 years earlier. In the early to mid 2000s, you could just get the most ridiculously low cost per clicks. As more and more people found out about it, the cost per click went up and up and up. I mean, I remember hearing things when I first got into digital marketing, talking about advertising on Google and saying with the search network, you should never pay more than 20 cents per click, stuff like that. This is sort of mid 2000s. And you're thinking, nowadays, it's just hilarious, the idea that you would be able to find an industry where you could pay less than 20 cents per click. I mean, there are industries where you pay more than 100 times that per click, and there's quite a lot of them. So as markets mature, this is what happens. That's sort of the scary part. And we've been through that with Facebook advertising. Facebook advertising is now mature enough where the costs, I don't think, and this is not what we've seen over the last few years, are going to continue to rise and rise and rise. Because of a few factors, which I'm going to explain right now. There becomes a point where the average advertiser on a platform can no longer advertise profitably. Okay? Just makes sense, right? Let's say you need to generate leads for less than $20 each for your campaigns to work. Well, if Facebook advertising gets more and more expensive, at some point, you're going to inevitably end up paying more than $20 per lead. At which point, you, as a business owner, marketer, entrepreneur, turns your campaigns off or scales back your budget significantly. Well, if increasing demand, so more advertisers joining the platform and more advertisers spending more money is what pushing the price up, once it reached those points, you're going to see less demand. If I stop advertising because I can no longer be profitable because the platform is too expensive, that decreases the demand and the price comes back down. Now, where you sit on that sort of, think about the ladder up, depends on how good a Facebook advertiser you are. So really poor Facebook advertisers, if you see my arm, really poor Facebook advertisers down here, they needed a really low cost to be profitable. It worked right at the beginning, but even a year in, they're out. So they're out straight away. The better ones can last a bit longer, and then you've got the really good ones, sort of at the top, really high quality Facebook advertisers achieving outstanding results. They're far less susceptible to price increases because they're doing a much better job. And what you'll see if you think about going up this graph is that you'll end up, Facebook advertising sort of sticks at a certain point, right? So it's not going to get up into the upper echelon. It's just not. At this point, all the poor advertisers can't make profit, so they try advertising, doesn't really work out, they leave, and their demand drops off. And you find this sort of natural equilibrium, okay? And that's why Facebook advertising hasn't really gotten much more expensive over the last 2 years and is unlikely to get too much more expensive going forward. It's because it just reaches a natural point. Same happened with Google AdWords, as I said. Obviously, that's segmented into different industries, so you pay a lot more per click for like insurance clicks than you would for, someone selling, I don't know, a pair of shoes, for example, okay? So they segmented, but you still reach a natural equilibrium where companies just go, you know what, if it gets more expensive, I can't afford to pay anything. I can't afford to advertise, and that reduces demand. Okay, so I don't, and by the way, when I'm measuring cost, I should quickly explain this. I'm not measuring on a cost per conversion, cost per click basis, because there are too many other factors that go into that. If you create a better Facebook ad campaign, you will see a lower cost per conversion. What I'm measuring things on is CPMs. Now, we've got clients that we've been working with for 4+ years at this point, and maybe even 5, actually thinking about it, might now be 5. And I've been back through their ad accounts and I've seen the CPMs. They're targeting mainly the same audiences. Obviously, we're doing things to improve the campaigns over that time period, but they're targeting mainly the same audiences. And we can look at CPMs, cost per 1,000 impressions. That's basically what you're buying as a Facebook advertiser, is you're buying impressions. Now, yes, Facebook is smart and they can work out who's likely to convert and all that sort of stuff, which is why you want to run a conversions campaign. But the product you're buying is eyeballs, is impressions. And that's the product that Facebook is selling at the end of the day. So that's the sort of more consistent way of you can look at your cost. And I'd encourage you to do this as well. Obviously, some industries are going to be different, some countries are going to be different. But for the most part, over the last 2 years, we haven't really seen an increase in CPMs. That has stayed fairly consistent, okay? Now, that's partly because of what I talked about. It's matured. We've reached a point at which good advertisers make money, poor advertisers lose money, and that just keeps you at this natural equilibrium. There's not just more and more businesses flooding to the platform, because unless they're going to do it right, it ain't going to work for them, they'll leave. But it's also because the supply has massively increased. Now, if you understand sort of basic economics, you know that price is a function of demand and supply. A way to bring prices back down, or at least stop them from increasing, is to increase supply. And we've definitely seen an increase in supply when it comes to Facebook advertising. Right, what does that look like? Older generations are using Facebook much more now than they were 3 or 4 years ago. We can see it in the data. 55 plus, 60 plus, that sort of age bracket, which particularly in Western countries represents a huge percentage of the population, they're spending a lot more time on Facebook now. So there's a lot more ad inventory, a lot more supply to put ads in front of those people. So even as demand has increased, as there's been more Facebook advertisers over the last 2 years, which there has, it hasn't been massive, but there have, we've seen the supply increase sort of in line with it. The other big area is Instagram. So Instagram usage, I don't have the exact data on this, but Instagram usage now, in comparison to Instagram usage 3 years ago, is much larger. I mean, they've grown as a platform, so they have a lot more users, but even their existing users from back then are using the platform a lot more. If I look at, friends and family, colleagues, people just spending so much time nowadays on Instagram. So that increase in supply has also helped, has allowed for more Facebook advertisers. So the increase in supply has allowed for the demand to go up a bit without seeing an increase in cost. As I said, even if they just cut supply dead on right now, we're unlikely to see much of a cost increase anyway. The other big one coming forward is going to be WhatsApp. So Facebook talked about in 2020 was going to be the year that they start allowing WhatsApp ads as basically like a placement option. So how you create your campaigns in Facebook's Ads Manager, you can advertise on Facebook, Messenger, Instagram. WhatsApp is going to become an option. And you can imagine how much more ad inventory, how much more supply that will add into the system. I mean, how much time are people spending on WhatsApp between group chats and talking to friends and things like that? People are spending an enormous amount of time on WhatsApp, and there aren't really ads in there. Imagine a scenario where, you know, you're in a group chat and every 8th message is an ad. And every, you know, you're scrolling through the various chats between friends that you've got going on, and, you know, between each 5th, you know, 5 chats, there'd be an ad, another 5 chats, there'd be an ad. That's a huge amount of ad inventory. And that increase in supply is likely to really help decrease the cost of Facebook advertising, even if the demand continues to increase. So what does that mean? I basically think we are likely to see, as we've seen the last 2 years, very much stabilized cost in terms of Facebook advertising. I think what it costs now is basically what it's going to cost for the next few years at least. There's going to be fluctuations between markets. There's going to be fluctuations between countries. Things like the pandemic and the lockdown obviously affected things for a time for a while. So it could be things like that happen again. But I think going forward, you should plan based on costs being as they are. And then you can basically park that as not something to worry about, and then focus on all the areas of the campaign that you do have control over and that will make a big difference to your business and your Facebook advertising efforts. Things we know work: create a better campaign, target better audiences, create better ad creative, come up with a better product, use a better offer, all the things that are in your control. Don't sort of worry too much about the future. I think costs are very much stable for all the reasons that I've mentioned. Okay, hopefully that's been useful. Before I go, a couple of things I want to quickly mention. First is a free webinar called 3 Killer Facebook Advertising Strategies to Double or More Your Revenue. And in this webinar, I basically break down a number of different sales funnels that we use that perform really well. They've worked for so many clients of ours, and I go through them in detail. So go ahead and check that webinar out, completely free. We'd strongly recommend you do it. Link is in the video description below. Just click on that and check it out. Another free thing I want to mention is my Facebook Ads Mastermind group. So there's currently about 45,000 members, fantastic community full of Facebook advertisers that want better results from Facebook advertising. They're asking questions, getting them answered by experts in the group all day, every day. I do free live trainings in there as well. If that sounds like something you want to be part of, again, completely free to join. Link is in the video description. Go ahead and click on that. We'd love to have you in there. If this video has been useful, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up. That'd be much appreciated. Please subscribe to my channel if you are new and haven't done so already. And of course, comment below to let me know if this was interesting, if you've got questions, all that sort of stuff. Best of luck with your Facebook advertising, guys, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.